Hey guys, just before we start this video, I would like to point out that I was originally going to upload this video on August 24th, which is what would be what you're going to be seeing in this video is this operating system's anniversary, but real life stuff got in the way, and so that's why let's put that simply, real life got in the way, so that's why it's been over like a week or so since I was originally planning to make that video. But anyways, we're going to be going into what we're going to be doing today, which is probably a special occasion that happened like last week as of the time of recording this preface. But yeah, anyways, please enjoy this video. And by the way, this is also my 150th video upload that I had here on the channel overall, counting shorts too. If you don't count shorts, that number is a bit lower than that. But anyways, please enjoy the video. Hello everyone, and welcome to another long form video here on the channel. It's been a while since I uploaded a regular form content video on this platform overall. The last one I did was 2 months ago, and that was about the Switch 2 trailer revisit. But anyways, today is August 24th, which at the time that you're watching this video, it should be August 24th, but the time of recording is a day earlier, because I'm recording this in advance for this special day, which is, I'm going to reveal it to you here, this. We are going to be installing Windows 95. Now this is a recorded copy. I don't have the actual copy, but I will get it sometime later in the future. But yeah, Windows 95 is going to turn, well, it has turned 30 years old as of today, as of this time of uploading. But anyways, yeah, Windows 95 kind of defined Windows in a major way. For one thing, if we can demonstrate here on Windows 2000 Professional, you got the taskbar, the icons, the start menu, Windows Explorer, and all that. Like I can go into use classic Windows folders to get rid of that, and we just get all the icons there. But anyways, but yeah, those fundamentals of Windows kept its way it made its way to future versions of Windows, and those fundamentals practically remained the same for many years, even to the latest version of Windows, which is Windows 11 at the time of recording. And yeah, Windows 95 was kind of really like the stepping stone for all future versions of Windows released afterwards. And Windows 95 was also the first version of a family of Microsoft Windows known as the Windows 9X series that includes this, Windows 98, 98 Second Edition, and ME, which ME is another whole thing of itself, but we'll not get into that in this video. But anyways, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be installing this on my Compaq Presario 7000 series computer, which is the one that I have running here. It's an Intel based one with a Pentium III copper mine, 933 megahertz. Now, I'm not going to be installing this directly to the computer. I'm actually going to be running it through here. So I'll have to create a new virtual machine. Yes, I'm running a VM to install this. Windows 95. Yep, you got an option here. So this is Microsoft Virtual PC 2004 running on Windows 2000. So the recommended RAM is 32 megabytes. Now when Windows 95 was released, it originally system requirements were like an Intel 386 DX CPU of any speed, 4 megabytes of system RAM, and 50 to 55 megabytes of hard disk space, according to Wikipedia, obviously, because I kind of use that for research sometimes or occasionally. But this was 1995, obviously. So I mean, you didn't have stuff like this back in the day, nor like whatever else did you have, you know. the internet was also at its infancy at the time. So yeah, you have no YouTube, you have no Twitter X, no Blue Sky, no all the other kind of social media stuff or anything that you kids are accustomed to nowadays. This was the more simpler times when the internet was just at its steady course. You know, it was still getting some improvements here and there, and times were different back in the day. But enough about that. The system requirements, yeah, I've already mentioned that. But yeah, and the recommended RAM is 32 megs. So we'll use the recommended RAM, new virtual hard disk. It created us for us, and it created us our VM right here. So let us go ahead and pop this shiny disk that I haven't used in a long time and plop it into the disk drive of this Compaq. And I'm going to be using it to load it on here. So and what you guys just heard, what you just heard was this the now famous Windows 95, the Microsoft sound, startup sound. I mean, that was kind of like the what made Windows 95 Windows 95. Well, you got the Windows 95 tour on here. Get first-hand experience with the power of Windows 95. And Microsoft Exposition. You also got Hover on disk, cool video clips, browse the CD, and we can just click on that for a brief moment. Oh, look how fast that loaded. I mean, this computer is from like what, 2000, and computers 1995. You are running on like what, Pentium, like non-MMX of like what, 75 megahertz or 100 megahertz back in the day. You know, it would have taken a bit slower to launch these animations than this Pentium 933 from 2000. Okay, I'll exit the tour because we'll get into that in a separate video. But anyways, let's launch Virtual PC and load in our disk. And I'm actually going to go full screen here, so yeah, don't show this again. Oh, whoa. Okay, off to a good start. Anyways, I need a boot disk. Do I have a boot disk somewhere? Because this is obviously because 95 on its own will not boot directly off the disk. So you actually need to use like I'm gonna have to use a Windows 98 boot disk, or at least a Windows 98 CD-ROM, OEM CD for that matter. So I'll grab that out. Here it is. Got the OEM disk in this nice little jewel, transparent green jewel CD case. And in 1995, I mean, CD-ROM drives were kind of like a thing. This is before DVDs come along, so I'm gonna eject the disc from the drive. And DVDs were eventually 96, so that's like a year after Windows 95. By the way, that's almost it's gonna turn 20 years old since it since it first invented. Okay. Whoa. And just when I went to full screen, I heard the Windows 98 boot sound. Okay, I'll just reset. And I got a cursor in the middle here. Reboot and select proper device or insert. Okay. I'm gonna have to use the physical drive again. There we go. Maybe I have not inserted it in. Okay, so the drive is already in there. So I'll go ahead and do right alt delete. Right alt delete. Yep. Windows 95, this is the install CD. It does not boot on its own. you need to use like a boot disk, or better yet, use a Windows 98 OEM CD for this matter. So that's what I'm going to be doing here. Oh, I think it's just not like detecting here. Oh, there we go. Now it works. Boot from the CD-ROM, and I will start the computer with CD-ROM support. So it's going there, and I am running on full screen here. Though this is not stretched to the full screen, so it's just kept in its original aspect ratio. We're running on 640 by 480. I'm going to turn the F-lock on. 640 by 480 mode. Okay, the button's a little bit finicky. Okay, I'm going to go to F-disk first. Yes. And we'll display the partition information. No partition is defined, so we need to actually create a DOS partition, a primary. It being a VM, it'll go by pretty quick. Let me adjust the... Let me go ahead and adjust the camera here for a little bit. So that way, we got that. Drive integrity. Do you wish to use the maximum available size for a primary partition to make the partition active? Yes, we want to do that. And it's verifying the drive integrity again. So don't worry guys, we'll get into installing Windows 95 eventually. And you know, August 24th, on a side note, it's kind of like, you know, kind of like also a pivotal point for releases of Microsoft Windows. So we all know August 24th, 1995, obviously, was the release date for Windows 95. And a year later, Windows NT 4, Windows NT 4.0 was released. And then a few years after that, Windows XP released to manufacturing in 2001. So what I'm gonna do is eject the 98 boot disk or the OEM CD out from the drive, and then put in the Windows 98, not in Windows 98, Windows 95 installation disk. And there we have it. We got everything in here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to CD Win 95, and I'm going to format C:/S/Q. Incorrect MS-DOS version. Oh, well. Wait, do we have MS-DOS installed on here? I don't think we have. Yeah, I'm not that sure. Oh, well, what? Let's see. Invalid media type reading drive C. Abort, retry, fail. Oh, man, those... those errors. Abort, retry, fail. Let's see. Let's just go into D... and then we'll go to cd ... to setup here. See how this goes. Setup is now going to perform a routine check on your system. Yes, whoa! It will only work on MS-DOS versions 5.0 and later. It found a compressed volume or a disk cache utility on your computer. Okay, I'll continue. Cannot create a temporary directory. Okay. Okay, I think I may have realized that because I did an F-disk thing or something using the 98 OEM disk, I'm also going to do the formatting on the 98 disk too. So, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily do this in Windows 95, obviously, especially for like either clean install or an upgrade. You know, back in the day, from like what, Windows 3.1, 3.11, whatever you used back in the day. But this is how we're going to be doing it in modern times. Modern as in like a retro. So format C:/S/Q. What this command does is invalid existing. Proceed with unconditional format. Oh, invalid existing format. Okay. We'll go with unconditional format or something. So it cannot be quick format. So this process is definitely going to take a while. Don't know what that would be, but what the /s basically means, does it make the drive bootable? Yeah, it makes the drive bootable, and then /q makes just quick formatting. But it turns out the format's invalid, so I can't do a quick format. So I'm gonna let this sit, and I'll come back shortly. All right, it completed. Now I gotta label it as simply Win95. All right, and then go to C, and I'll do a make Windows directory. Then we'll do options, and I'm just gonna scroll here, cabs. And what I will do is I will remove the Windows 98 OEM disk from the drive and put in the Windows 95 install CD into it. I'll just insert that in there. And we'll do copy d:/win95/star.star. We could do that, or we can just leave that out and just put d:/win95, but what? Invalid switch. d:/win95/ is it backslash? Yes, it's backslash, not /. So that's how you kind of do it if you are a very experienced and a power user back in the day, but a typical consumer wouldn't necessarily do this. They would just go through like your atypical like setup process and whatnot, which you should definitely see once we reboot. All right. And we took all the files out of the CD itself, and got the brief Windows 98 boot screen for this sec. We could run setup, or you can do this command, which will skip the scan disk. But I feel like we're just gonna go with it as usual. So now finally the time we're gonna get into the setup. Please wait while setup initializes. Setup is now going to perform a routine check on your system. To continue, press enter. To quit setup, press escape. Press enter, and whoa. Version of scan disk will only work at MS-DOS versions 5.0 and later. Setup found the compressed volume or disk cache utility, yada yada yada. I'll continue with setup. Press escape. Oh, and there it goes. So ideally, I should use the setup/is command for that. So let me show that. Let me try that again. Setup/is. Here we go. And there we have it. Welcome to Windows 95 setup. Congratulations on your choice of Windows 95, the newest and easiest way to do what you want to do with your PC. Setup will take from 30 to 60 minutes depending on the speed of your computer. To begin setup, click continue. And I believe the Windows NT 4.0 setup is more or less the same as the Windows 95, except with some Windows 95 references replaced with Windows NT, from what I believe. Setup is now preparing the Windows 95 setup wizard, which will guide you through the rest of the setup process. Please wait. Oh man, anyone that's used Windows 95 back in the day, this will be very, very familiar to you. Especially if you have used Windows 95 from back in the day, you know. And now I'm getting the little line across the screen. I think that's probably because, I don't know, it's just strobe effect. And we can read our end user license agreement as it stands. Yes, I will accept. Error. Setup cannot create files on your startup drive and cannot set up Windows. Oh. So we ran into a problem of some sorts. Sorry, I'm cutting into this point in the video because I gone through a whole hoopla or whatever trying to set up Windows 95 set up reliably on here. It's been kind of like a hit and miss, but anyways, Now we're going to be making a Windows directory, and within it, make it in the options directory, and within it, make a caps directory. This is how OEMs typically install Windows. You know, back in the day, especially with Windows 90, 95, 98, ME and whatnot. For the 9X series of operating systems, this is how they would usually do it. And now we just do copy d:/win95/star.star. And now it's gonna copy every single thing in there into the drive. And before we hit Control-Delete to escape, or in this case, Right-Alt-Escape since we're virtualizing the machine, I'm gonna do a F disk. Oh, I need to plug in the 98 disk first. Plugging that back. So I will remove the Windows 95 CD from the drive, then put the Windows 98 OEM disk back in there. Another abort, retry, fail thing, right? Current drive is no longer valid. A Okay, I'll just go ahead and reboot. Windows 98 boot screen, so cd windows/options/cabs, and we'll do setup here. Please wait while setup initializes. Setup is now going to perform a routine check on your system. To continue, press enter. To quit setup, press escape. Quit setup, close setup/is. All right, let's see if we go. There we go. Welcome to Windows 95 setup. Congratulations on your choice of Windows 95, the newest and easiest way to do what you want to do with your PC. Setup will take from 30 to 60 minutes, depending on the speed of your computer. To begin setup, click continue. Now, this is the familiar Windows 95 setup screen that back in the 90s you may be all familiar with. If you set up Windows 95 for the first time or when you're upgrading. And I believe Windows NT 4.0 also used this exact same setup process, just with the Windows 95 references replaced with Windows NT. Anyways, we'll hit continue. Setup is now preparing the Windows 95 setup wizard, which will guide you through the rest of the setup process. And here's our end user license agreement for Windows 95. Yes, I accept the terms of the agreement. Hopefully we shouldn't be getting errors. Fingers crossed. Yes, there we go. Windows 95 Setup Wizard. Welcome to the Windows 95 Setup Wizard, which will guide you through the rest of the setup. To begin, click Next. The next three parts of setup are collecting information about your computer, copying Windows 95 files to your computer, and restarting your computer and finishing setup. Note, Windows 95 replaces any version of MS-DOS and Windows that are already on your computer. Yeah, I talk a little bit too fast, but I just kind of want to speed things up here. But yeah, this is what setting up Windows 95 is like. You know, back in like Windows 95, 1995 or whatever. All right, it's setting up Windows on Windows.000. We don't want that because then it's going to create a new Windows directory and it's going to be all messy. So we'll just use other directory, delete the .000. The directory c:/Windows already exists. If you continue files in this directory, may be overwritten. Do you want to continue with the specified directory? Yes. I want to do that because we are going to be installing Windows 95 in this video. Because it's this OS's 30th anniversary since its release on August 24th, 1995, which is today. Yeah, it's preparing the directory and all the jazz. Setup options. So we got typical, portable, compact, and custom. So the typical, recommended for most computers. Portable will be setup options that are useful for portable computers. Compact, to save disk space. And custom, for advanced users and system admins only. Which, I'm a power user, so I do custom. Oh, an identification number. So this is probably the OEM disk or something. So I'll grab the product identification number in a bit. So I'll be back. Okay, I just entered in that the product identification key, because essentially I think this is an OEM install, I would likely assume. But anyways, one user information. Type your name below if you want. You can also type the name of your company you work for. I'll just type in my usual. Analyzing your computer. Setup will detect the hardware devices on your computer. You can have setup look for all hardware devices, or you can specify which devices you want setup to search for while it's analyzing your computer. Do you want setup to look all hardware drives? Yes. It recommends that we're doing so. Ooh, yes. CD-ROM drive, network adapter, sound, MIDI, or video capture card. Now it's going to analyze more of the computer, obviously. Now, because this is Virtual PC 2004, because it emulates like a, well, like a, I don't know, it's like a mid-90s PC or whatever. I mean, it's got emulate S3 Viro, I don't know what type of S3 some rather, graphics card that's kind of virtualized here. And it even virtualizes a Sound Blaster 16, albeit not at the greatest emulation quality available, at that time. So that FM synthesis emulation is going to be hit or miss on this thing anyways. Well, it's definitely not going to be sounding as great as this, because, I mean, the bit rate is so low and quality is so low, Anyways, progress 96%. Sometimes it gets stuck there, but it kind of, as long as it can go. I mean, better yet, I copied all the files from the CD to the hard drive. That way, it kind of speeds things up a bit, and also that way, if Windows 95 needs stuff like drivers and stuff, I'll just have to let it go through there instead of the actual disk. So I feel like this is gonna take a little while, so I'll be back once this has gone over with. Alright, getting connected. Windows comes with email, fax, tools, and access to online services. So you got MSN, known as the Microsoft Network at the time, and you got Microsoft Mail, fax. None of these servers, none of these things actually work anymore, not in the modern times. But back in '95, they were kind of the thing to have. I say kind of in that sense. I mean, we got a bunch of options here. We got accessories. I mean, for accessories, you got briefcase, calculator, and stuff. Paint is on there too. A newly redesigned version of Paint at that time, because 3.1's version of Paint had a different interface. Windows 95 introduced the interface that would remain up to Windows Vista, in fact. And you got screensavers, which by default you just get that, but we want additional screensavers, because that's what we want. And you know what? I'll just select everything, including the briefcase and whatnot. And I'm scrolling, and scroll wheels didn't necessarily exist at that time. Not until like a few years later, with like Intel mouse or whatever. So you would just have like a 2-button mouse with no scroll wheel at that time. Dial-up networking, direct cable connection. I'll just link all those up. Why not? Backup. You want backup. Multimedia. We want everything. And the sample sounds. It includes all the sample sounds that we need, including all the default system sounds too. We need that. Then we got the Utopia sound scheme. We want all the sound schemes on here. Why not? We just want every single thing on here as far as Windows 95 is concerned. The RTM, because this is the RTM version of Windows 95. Okay, client for Microsoft Networks, client for NetWare Networks, and Windows Logon. We'll just use client from Microsoft Networks because that's, yeah. We got IPX/SPX compatible protocol and NetBUI. Now, there's no option to get like TCP/IP or whatever. Yeah, TCP/IP is there. It's not installed by default. You had to manually select that. So we get TCP/IP. lots of other stuff here. Yeah. Anyways, that's that. Click next. Yeah, the name just kind of like. I'll just name it as work group. Work group. Display S3. Yeah, because this is an S3 based graphics card that we're virtualizing here. Standard PC. So yeah. APM. So no ACPI yet. And we can choose between the Windows 3.1 Program Manager interface or the Windows 95 interface. You know, we're going to choose Windows 95 here for now. Standard PACS2 mouse. Startup disk. Please specify whether you want setup to create a startup disk for you. You can use the startup disk to start your computer and run diagnostic programs if you have trouble running Windows. Well, we don't want to start up this, especially since we're running on VM. And now it's going to start copying files. So get ready for the drums. At the bottom left, you see that? That also became a cursor. That also became like a cursor animation that you set in later versions of Windows up until Windows Vista. Because Windows 7 removed all the classic cursor sets. Anyways, welcome to Windows 95. Windows 95 lets you unlock the potential of your PC. Easier to use. It's the easiest Windows yet in 1995, obviously. Because, you know, I believe newer versions of Windows made it a lot more easier than 95. You know, get more done. It's faster and more efficient. Has been improved to provide high-powered performance. 32-bit networking and smoother multitasking, faster printing and data access. I mean, one of the things Windows 95 introduced was 32-bit support, you know, for apps and whatnot. It even supports long file names, you know, VFAT or whatever. And yeah, I mean, you know, it's. And it kept MS-DOS as like a, you know, like a component that's kind of like in the background or something. I mean, MS-DOS is still part of like all Windows 9X series, even Windows ME. Because that, even though it removed a lot of the real mode DOS thing, it still has DOS. But, you know, take it on the road, communicate with everyone, and whatnot. So once again, it's copying the files, and you may notice that some of the buttons and some parts of the interface are still Windows 3.1 like, because it's using some form of a modular Windows installation thingery that's kind of like set up for like like some kind of embedded devices or whatever. But it's basically like a small Windows 3.1 environment that's used to load the Windows 95 setup. And these billboards, you know, they're drawn with pixel art. Getting started, the best and fastest ways to high gear with Windows 95 is by getting best experience via online help, which that's still a thing to this day. And now it's about to finish. And it's going by through these billboards fairly quickly. I mean, since we're virtualizing, I mean, you know, preparing to restart your computer. The setup wizard is ready to start Windows 95 and begin the last part of setup. Remove any disk from their drives and then click finish to restart your computer and finish setup. Well, I don't have anything in the drive, so yeah, notice the interface. So it's got these style buttons or whatever, but you know, we'll click finish. Setup is now ready to restart, and now we're restarting. And let's see this. Starting Windows 95. Whoa, getting ready to run Windows 95 for the first time. I know some of you around in the 90s will probably remember fondly remember this screen pretty well. I mean, I wasn't even around at that time when 95 was released. I mean, I was born well into the 2000s, early 2000s, and 95 was well past its relevancy. In fact, support for Windows 95 was dropped in like what, December 31st, 2001, alongside all other older versions of Windows, dating back to the very first version of Windows, which is Windows 1.0 from 1985. Anyways, now we got parts of the new user interface that Windows 95 introduced, which we now call it the classic style interface. You know, we got these beveled buttons, whatnot. Very different than what Windows 3.1 and previous versions of Windows looked like. Type a name to identify yourself to Windows. Enter a password if you want to. Tip: if you don't enter the password, you won't get this prompt again at startup. I'll just go ahead and type in my name, and I won't type in a password this time. Nope. Windows 95 is now setting up your hardware and any plug-and-play devices you may have. Look at this one-colored title bar, because title gradient bars didn't exist until Windows 98 came along. And Office 95 did come a preliminary type of gradient bars, you know, with the black and blue gradient bar type thingery. A DHCP client was unable to obtain an IP address from a DHCP server. Nah, don't want to do that. Now it's going to go ahead and set up even more items. Windows 95 is now setting up the control panel, start menu shortcuts and whatnot. So it's updating all the shortcuts for us. Then it's going to go to Windows Help, the MS-DOS program settings, the time zone, the exchange, and setting up the printers. So now it's going through Windows Help and time zone. So I think in Windows 95 only, possibly the RTM, you have this little thingery here. So when you click on anywhere in the portion of the map, look, or just drag your mouse around, and you can select through different time zones just by clicking on the map instead of just going by this drop-down list. So, of course, we are in the Pacific time. We're not in Eastern, Central, or Mountain, but we are in Pacific time. And as for comparison, I'm going to exit out here and go to Windows 2000's version. So, date and time. So, this is comparison. Look at that. Fairly identical to Windows 95's. The only difference is that it does not have the little highlighter thing. Possibly for legal reasons. And look, you cannot drag anywhere on the desktop on this area anymore. You literally had to use this little drop down blocks, like I mentioned. And the map still moves, but you're unable to select through different time zones just by going through, you know, just by clicking on anywhere on the map. Anyways, back to here. Yes, you can select through anywhere on the map for this to work, but we'll just use Eastern time, not Eastern time, Pacific time, because that's where I live. Click apply, okay, configuring Microsoft Exchange. And then it's gonna set up the printers or whatever. Well, I don't have any printers, not even a virtualized one. No. Use that. Oh, it wants us to do that first. Oh, we got sound going. Locations in the selected country must specify an area city code. Please enter one. Listen to those sounds. There might be carryovers from Windows 3.1, I assume, but, you know. A modem connected to my computer. It's trying to look for a modem here, which we don't have one, not even a virtualized one, so I'll just hit cancel for all those. Yes, I would like to cancel that setup. Now that I can use Microsoft Exchange anyway. neither this one here. Setup has finished configuring your system. You must restart your computer before the new settings will take effect. Click OK to restart your computer now. Please wait while your computer shuts down. Now we're going to go into the Windows 95 for the first time. Starting Windows 95. There's the Windows 95 boot screen. Honestly, that would look better if it was stretched to the full window, but because it's running through its original aspect ratio, this is what it looks like, or its original resolution. So that's what it looks like, even though we're at full screen. So yeah, it's loading, and yeah. Windows 95, this is the operating system that defined Windows to what it is today, because it introduced fundamental things. So I could hit escape on here, but I'm just gonna hit OK. And there's the Windows 95, the Microsoft sound, startup sound. Welcome to Windows 95. Did you know to open a program, you just click the start button and then click the program's icon? There's something I learned. And here is the desktop. And you notice I clicked on the start button with this basic little interface, a basic menu of some sort. So I'll go to properties. You can right click and go to properties. And this is what the display properties box look like in Windows 95. You would set a pattern here, select patterns, or you can select a wallpaper of your choice, which, by the way, these are all just like a set of wallpapers that it came with. I'll use clouds. So we can use that. And we screensavers, we got choice between blank screen, curves and colors, flying through space, flying windows, mystify your mind, scrolling marquee. And the scrolling marquee contains the once notable tagline. Where do you want to go today? Mystify your mind, that's what it looks like. But moreover, we'll just choose flying windows. And rendered at the very low resolution, 256 colors. That was the standard back in the day, but let's see if we can go up to 1024 by 768 true color mode. You have not specified what type of monitor to use. Super VGA 1024 by 768. My throat's getting dry. You must restart your computer before the new settings will take effect. Yes, I will go ahead and restart. Windows is now restarting. Okay, let's see. And Windows 95 had an enhancement pack known as the Microsoft Plus package, which that adds a certain bit of enhancements, including the very first version of Internet Explorer, because that was not included with the operating system itself. You were probably still using the virtual machine is using a video mode that is too large for your monitor. Yeah, switch from full screen mode back to window mode. Are you sure? I can use full screen. And there we go. Fills the entire screen and the image. There we go. So, and notice the background wallpaper is is not stretched. Because stretching the wallpaper is still is only available in Microsoft Plus for Windows 95. I understand that. And then we had this welcome screen coming up on here. Show this welcome screen next time you start Windows. I'll uncheck that. Please uncheck. Goodness, the performance of this VM. Oh wow, something's wrong here, but yeah, here's the start menu. This is what it looks like. Basic menu with just programs, documents, settings, find, help, run, and shut down. I wonder what else is there. Oh, Seems like the resolution, yes. I want to see if I can enable install virtual machine editions. Will that work on here? I hope not. Oh, it's going through here, configuring Windows installer. I mean, we're basically running on RTM. But anyways, there we have it. We have Windows 95 installed on Virtual PC 2004 on Windows 2000 for its 30th anniversary. I mean, there's nothing too special, but at least we kind of delve into what Windows 95 is like, you know, what Windows 95 is, some basics. But yeah, preparing to install. We got options here. The internet. You can see on there, if my mouse point, yeah, higher resolution is kind of, I don't know, maybe like what, 640 by 480 or 800 by 600 would suffice. But I'm installing virtual machine editions for now. I'll skip ahead to when all this is done. Install Shield Wizard complete. Yeah, the mouse is a little bit bugged out. Yes, we'll restart. Okay, I rebooted. This time with VM editions now. And we got sounds a little bit down here. I'm gonna try turning that up here. Running a little bit slower than usual. I mean, process time is kind of taking up a bit. Can't really. Okay, where's the mouse reading? Okay, the mouse doesn't seem to want to. Well, it's not even registering. Oh, whoa. Oh, that's a problem. Especially at a higher resolution, because the resolution is just so high. I think I might as well have to like lower the resolution a bit. So I'll go to settings, drop that down to 800 by 600. It'll resize my desktop. Disable the resolution switching. You resize your desktop. There we go. I think 800 by 600 is plausible enough for us, especially. And I set what is that? But there we go. I guess that's pretty much plausible for us. Anyways, yeah, that about wraps up for this thing. Windows 95, copyright 1991, 1995. And notice there also is an option to kind of like, you know, show window contents while dragging, because that didn't exist in Windows 95 RTM release. Only available in Microsoft Plus and Windows 95 yet again. So all the enhancements are only available on Microsoft Plus and Windows 95. So, in my opinion, if you want to have those certain enhancements, get Microsoft Plus and Windows 95 on your system. And let's do 75. And look how laggy that is. A super laggy flying Windows thingery. I'll turn that down to 25 because that was super laggy. 10 minutes. And yeah, the internet. I wonder what that goes to. Internet setup. Connect using my LAN network. Yes. Installing files from the CD-ROM. DHCP address. Yes. Set up. I wonder where this goes. What? I guess it's probably an OEM install, so it included Internet Explorer out of the box. This is what it looks like. So we got a Windows logo at the top right there. This the interface used to look like this. 1985, 1995. So version 4.40.308, based on NCSA Mosaic. Properties. Windows 95 version 4.00.950. Pentium 32 megs RAM. And yes, this is RTM. Got device manager, so it has support for plug and play, because this is the first version to have that. Support for virtual memory, full hardware acceleration, hard disk troubleshooting. And we can have here, we can do some troubleshooting here or whatever for experienced users and novice users, so whatever. Typical role of this machine: desktop computer, mobile or docking station, a network server. Right now it's a desktop computer, but you know, I'm gonna right click here, properties, show clock. So even the start menu is pretty much limited in this aspect. Help, this is what it looks like. Programs, accessories, facts, some basic games. We got Solitaire on here. That's what it looks like. The basic sets here. And then we have Free Cell on here. That's what it looks like. Are you sure you want to quit the game? Yes. Got Hearts. Microsoft Hearts Network. What is your name? How do you want to play? I want to connect to another game. I want to be a dealer. Oh. Yeah. So in later versions of Hearts, it removed this whole thing. So you are always set to be dealer. So new game. Here's everything. So I'll pass left. And look at these animations. Of course, on faster systems, these animations go by so fast. All right, Minesweeper here. This is Minesweeper. Boom. Just hit a bomb or a mine. It's a mine. We got hyper terminal, character map. We got a calculator here. Let's do the little meme here. 9 plus 10 does not equal 21. You stupid. Can't believe I just did that. Yeah, Internet Explorer is included with this install of Windows 95, because I believe this is OEM. Yeah, you may notice I did add this background, and it's the Cyborg Kudo-chan based background that I also used on Windows 98 on this computer natively, but I plopped it in here to this Windows 95 VM and it matches. Anyways, we got calculator, character map, dial-up networking, direct cable connection, hyperterminal, and notepad. We got notepad on here, still included with newer versions of Windows. Hello from Windows 96, 95. There we go. Hello from Windows 95. No, we do not want to save that. And online registration. What's that? Oh, the registration wizard. No modem is available. The registration wizard requires that you have a properly configured modem. Okay, I don't know what that was. We do get Paint here. So yes, this is the version of Paint that I'm sure most of you are probably familiar with too. Oh, and these little indicators. at the bottom right. You can see these icons there. That's something I didn't notice. So those icons got removed in versions of Windows after Windows 95, but they still kept the coordinates and stuff. Because imagine if they removed that, it would be tougher. Looks like it's set to a higher one. I'm gonna put that down to like a more suitable size. There we go. So we can edit here, we can just draw stuff, paint stuff. So we just got like paint brushes and like these. Yeah, because of how it's running on the VM, it's a little bit slower than usual. You know? And we got stuff like that. Look at this. So what we're doing, we're making a masterpiece in black and white. Look at that. And yeah, we are making a Mysterio in black and white. Why not we just add some color? Red, blue, green, yellow. 4 colors that make up the Windows logo. The former Windows logo and now the Microsoft logo. Get colors, edit colors. So this is what we would do. Get colors. So we can load up a palette which will draw opaque. All these other things though. No, I will not save that. Oh man. I used to draw and paint back in the day. Phone dialer. So this is phone dialer in Windows 95. It's somehow carried over to current versions of Windows, especially when Vista came out. They kept this, and because Vista was based on Server 2003 code, so it had this instead of the one for like what Windows 2000 and Windows XP. So just for comparison, I'm gonna go out here and type in dialer. This is what phone dialer looks like in Windows 2000. Very complex. Oh wow, I didn't know that moves around with your mouse. This is the one developed by Active Voice. So it has a much drastically different interface. So you don't have the interface where it's just like, oh, you just punch in those numbers and then, you know, do all those. This one you had to actually like type in your phone number or computer name or whatever. But this one, stop, yes. This one's like a simplistic interface, you know. So you got a bunch of numbers that you want to dial, and then you have your speed dialing options. Of course, you need to have a modem to use this, but yeah, it's interesting to see how even this interface, well, this program was unchanged in current versions of Windows. Untouched, you know. And WordPad, because WordPad version 1.0, this replaced Windows Write. So if you happen to type in Write, it will open up WordPad. This is WordPad running on Windows 95. And Office 95 with Microsoft Word 95 came later. You know, and I know Office 97 up include the Office Assistants, which are another thing, you know, on of itself. Exchange for 95, is that like a mailing service or whatever? Oh, it's going through all this whole thing again. There are no profiles. Could not be started. So if I hit inbox, yeah, it's just going to go to the same thing again. So that will not launch. Microsoft Network, that goes nowhere. No modems available on this. Task cannot be completed. Briefcase. So this is what briefcase is. You can use the briefcase to help you organize and keep your documents up to date between two PCs. So yeah, useful when you have like a PDA device or whatever. And I haven't shown Windows Explorer yet, so this is what Windows Explorer used to look like in its very early iteration. All the range. About Windows 95, so there's what the About box looks like. Oh, we got a toolbar. I can enable that, because otherwise by default you get this. A very basic Explorer window with no toolbar, no panels on the side, just the icons. Just basic icons like this one. Of course, I'll need a toolbar for lots of other things. Kind of matches with the aesthetic of Internet Explorer with how it displays this. But you know, it's kind of how I had it. 95. Oh, it opens up another window. And then, yeah. So that's the thing. You open up a folder, opens up another window. You open up a folder, it opens up another window. So that's one of the things back in the day. So it's not like everything's just like all in one window. However, you can set that yourself. So you have two browsing options. You can either browse folders using a separate window for each folder, or you can browse folders by using a single window that changes as you open each folder, which this option right here has been set the standard for every single Explorer window, you know, since. However, I think this still remains as an option though. I'll show all the files and I'll display the full MS-DOS path in the title bar. Okay. And all these file types. Look, you can define default file types here. Anyways, changes will take effect once you restart Explorer. And obviously, here's the very basic task manager thingery. Which, what happens if I end Explorer? I'm not going to do that. I'll just go here. Yeah, this is more like how we use Windows nowadays, where everything you just browse and it's all in one window, and then you press the up button to go back to a directory. And let's take a look at Control Panel. Yeah, here's what Control Panel looks like. Got passwords here, user profiles. All users use the same preferences in desktop settings, or you can just customize the preferences in desktop settings. Sounds, here's all the default sounds. It's a good thing that I had the sample sounds, because that would give us the full set of sounds that it needs. Otherwise, it will only contain the Microsoft sound and nothing else. Let's play this again. And by the way, this sound even stayed in like what, NT4 and even Windows 2000, strangely enough. But there's the preview icon for it, which I think that's present in the metadata or whatever. Empty recyclement is just a ding sound. But because we got other schemes, we got the Utopia, Robots, Musica, and Jungle sound schemes in there too. System brings up that. Multimedia. Yeah, we got a bunch of other things here. Look at that. Internal OPL2, OPL3 FM synthesis. I just wanna kind of like bore you guys how bad it sounds. And it's here in virtualization. 3D pointers, animated hourglasses, and it's just a basic set. Very basic set. Mail and fax, keyboard, joystick. You can configure joysticks here. When you had like those 1-button or 2-button joysticks that plugs into your game port, whatever, from the back of your computer. Those were the days. And we got a bunch of other colors for your interfaces, because this is the Windows Classic interface. And we got a few high contrast options here for visually impaired users. And we got large and extra large windows variants of the default stuff. And the pumpkin theme is only on the large. You had to manually set it to like normal size. I know probably not. Yep. Custom regional settings. Okay, we got that same map here that's also shown in the time zone thing, which we can go back in here and set that. Look at that. Again, we can still drag throughout the map. Let's see. I'm pretty sure they probably removed this because they had plenty more time zones for different areas. So they didn't want to have to go out and map through all this with but like a simple highlight. Well, maybe you can't, because I probably see Arizona there. Number... Oh, whoa. No, we will not restart. Anyways, numbers, currency, time, date. So everything is all correct. And we got power, printers, and I could go by through this all day. We got a fonts folder too. So this is everything in the fonts folder. Internet, we got stuff for internet. Back when you had like dial-up or broadband or whatever. Those types of things back in the day. And I'll open up media player. MPlay 32 is what it is. Oh. Is it M player? Yes. There's media player. And we could try playing like an audio file, whatever, or maybe a MIDI file, but I know a MIDI file. And there's CD player here too. So we got all those things here. We got sound recorder too. So we got all your classic little bits of applications here. Some of them useful, some of them not. We got a system monitor here too. So this is basically like, let's try connecting. Nah. Not sure if this is useful. We got scan disk, backup, disk defragmenter, which I'm not going to go ahead and defrag. Net watcher, resource meter. It monitors the system resources on your programs are using. Like any program, it uses system resources when it's running. So there's system resources, and it's right at the bottom down here. It's this access for everything. Some details. Drive space and whatnot. Pretty much everything that you expect for Windows 95. And we also got the registry editor here. And yeah, we can change things in the Windows registry for an experienced power user. Anyways, let's go ahead and try playing a MIDI to see how bad this emulation sounds. Must have killed the sound for some. Oh, there we go. That's some low quality, like crunchy, like. I mean, that's the result of trying to emulate this in virtualization, but. Yeah, the emulation of, oh my gosh, yeah, the emulation of the OPL3 FM synthesis emulations, not that great. Not that great. So I wouldn't trust playing games on virtualization, especially Virtual PC 2004. DOS games in particular. You know, either way, yeah, I think that about wraps up with everything I want to take a look at Windows 95 is concerned. And there's your search thing. We can find now and see everything here. Look at all this stuff it's trying to search, and it's done. I wouldn't bother opening up all those things, especially for how slow the virtualization thing is. But you know, yeah, we could shut down, restart, and restart in MS-DOS mode, or log in as a different user. How about we restart the computer and show you how it's like to boot into Windows by hitting escape. Let's go into there. Yeah, just change that. Whoa, I opened up a tasks window on the login screen. And yeah, we lost. We somehow desynchronized the mouse again. Yeah, we desynchronized the mouse. I'll just enter a network password and I'll close that out. Alt F4 that. Yep, I have seemed to have. Yep, we seem to have desynchronized ourselves yet again. So how about we go back to 1024 by 768 and let us resize. You resize your desktop. Yes. Alright, there we go. So I thought even using that resolution wasn't going to suffice, but it was the virtualization thing that's kind of hampering it. But anyways, yeah, full desktop. Windows 95, here we are. And yeah, that's pretty much about it for this video. I mean, we basically installed Windows 95, took a look at some of the programs and stuff it came with. Oh, one more thing before I go. The MS-DOS prompt. That's what it looks like. Eight by 12. I can also go through full screen. Oh, as you Alt Enter on that one, and that doesn't seem to work. That one works. It goes to full screen. Now it's want to switch that. So we can go to full screen here yet again. A ver, date, time, all the things that I would usually set for MS-DOS. Help, bad command or file name, so it doesn't want help for some reason. Okay. And then exits out the command prompt. And then we can just go back into command. Let's just typing in command or command.com. So all those things. Anyways, yeah, so we got that. And what happens if we type win here? You are already running Windows. Press Alt-Enter to switch this MS-DOS between Windows and full screen. Type exit and press Enter to quit this MS-DOS prompt and return to Windows. Press Alt-Tab to switch to Windows or another application. Oh, whoa. Now it's switched back. Gonna exit full screen mode. And we'll exit that out. And yeah, there's not that much to say about this thing. I mean, this is Windows 95 in its entirety. Yeah, that's not accessible. Not a floppy drive. yeah, everything is here. Everything is here. Oh, look at that. We got the file manager up on here. The classic file manager from Windows 3.1. It's still here. Even the program manager is still in here too. If I can find, there it is. This is what the program manager looks like. Oh, wow. So it has everything listed in there. You know, I could possibly set this as the default as the default interface and just have the Windows 3.1 style looking Windows 3.1 style feel, not the look though, because I mean the interface is different. WinHelp32, it's there, and 16-bit help. We got the welcome program here. So we got all these tips. Got the Windows tour. I think it's also built in. Yeah. Also, that is also fast too. Start. And then we got the WordPad. It's just like simplest. Let's just go breeze by this thingery here. Exit. Exit tour. Got the tour button here. We got all the stuff. When pop-up. So when you close pop-up, you will not receive messages. What? Yeah, all these applications in here. Command, dialer, dry space, group converter. System contains even more stuff. Look at all this. Oh my gosh. User. Lots and lots and lots of stuff on here. Yeah, I guess that's about it. I'm just gonna go ahead and shut down this VM because we have been rambling on for so long about Windows 95. For its 30th anniversary, obviously. Oh, and the resolution somehow not switched back. There we go. Fixed it. But yeah, this is running on a VM, obviously, so it's not installed natively. I did have it installed natively on this Compaq at one time. It was kind of a hit or miss situation, you know, but I did have it on here for a short period for experimentation. But, you know, I put Windows 98 back on there because, you know, it's what this computer originally came with when it was first introduced in 2000. Okay. Well, full screen. Should probably turn that down when I'm using like what? Window mode? There we go, window mode. There we go. But yeah. I guess we've pretty much done what we're supposed to do in here. So yep, that about sums up for this video for Windows 95's 30th anniversary. It's hard to believe that Windows 95 just turned 30 years old on August 24th of 2025. Because this operating system released way back in 1995, more than 30 years ago, you know, since up to today, obviously. But, you know, it's kind of fun to kind of like walk down this whole way through. Not necessarily a trip down memory lane because, well, never really actually used Windows 95 for a daily basis. I mean, I used Windows XP as far as my childhood, but, you know, I did use Windows 95 at some point during my childhood, if I gotta tell you that. It was during like what, first grade, and one of the computers, they had a couple of old computers that ran Windows 95 and Windows 98. I tell you that. There was a laptop that ran Windows 98, and they had a desktop computer running Windows 95. I tell you that, but yeah, I guess that about wraps up for this long and drawn out video. But anyways, yeah, I thank you guys for watching this video, whether you're watching this or not. And yeah, thank you guys so much for sticking with me to the very end. If you come across this, you know, obviously on YouTube or whatever you encounter this video on. But yeah, stay tuned for more videos on this channel as they come along, whether it be like what, regular form videos, shorts, whatever. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. See ya.